And we're live. Yeah, apparently. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another political recap. Look at that, it's a nice little intro, isn't it? Joining me as always is TrupsLP. So hello, TrupsLP.
Hello, TrupsLP.
How is TrupsLP?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Work is. I'm starting to get like numb to being at work, so I think that's progress.
Oh, you become like enamored to the whole process of doing stuff.
I feel like enamored is a poor use of the word, but
It is, but I
I'm
like to use
definitely.
fancy words sometimes.
Then yes.
If anyone is having an issue with audio tonight, like they hear an echo, I do apologise, but I can't do anything to fix that without having to resort to using a trackpad for the remainder of the stream, but even then it's not a guarantee it'll fix it. Because I'd have to use a USB splitter to then plug in the audio jack for my earphones. I only have 2 USB slots, so I don't have the additional power to be able to use my microphone and earphones. So I do apologise for that in advance. Oh, but the stream is already buffering on my tablet, so that's fantastic. So did you want to cover the first topic today, or would you like me to start?
Well, do you want to go through the lovely Twitter explosion that was
Nah,
Brett
we'll cover
Kavanaugh's
mine first. Fuck
confirmation?
it. I'll do something funnier first. So,
Okay, fair enough.
long ago in America, there was an instance where a couple wanted a cake. A very special cake. A gay cake. And they were refused service, which led to a court case and a bit of a shit show, really. If I remember correctly, didn't the couple that wanted the gay cake win?
Yes, originally.
In support of gay marriage, I believe?
That's what people say. Yeah.
Right. Well, it turns out this story has actually made its way over to Northern Ireland, where it actually happened in a bakery there. Who knew? I didn't know this, by the way. I didn't know it had crossed the ocean to us. It raises a rather interesting question, obviously, because Northern Ireland is quite religious. But basically a Christian owner, or 2 Christian owners, a couple, owned a bakery in Northern Ireland, and they had originally lost a case of what's called the gay cake discrimination case. I think it's funny, especially with what they wanted on the cake. And I'm going to pull up a picture, because this is pretty funny. I love the picture on this article of Bert and Ernie on the thumbnail with Queer Space born 1998 turning the freaking cakes gay. And it was quite funny. Now this case originally they lost, obviously, and it basically came down to 5 justices in a Supreme Court who were unanimous this time in the verdict. They'd said it was not discriminatory for a couple who owned their own business to choose who they serve and for whatever reason they want to serve them. Do you agree with this? Basically, are you the question is basically, and it's loaded, are you a homophobe or not?
I'm not a homophobe, but I have to ask, does Northern Ireland have rights for private companies?
Well, yes, it does. Of course it does. Any private business can do what the fuck they can refuse service to anyone they want. Of course, though,
Then there you
people
go.
are. We don't have similar rights you guys have, because you've got the whole constitution thing. We do have one, but as it's Horcruxes. It's everywhere. But with this case, they don't have to want. It's not a case of we're offering you money, therefore you must take it to make us what we want. And it should never be that way. I don't care about gay marriage. I've said it many times. I don't care about marriage. Some do get benefits from it, tax breaks, but quite frankly, I don't give a shit. I mean, it was only recently that they'd finally passed a bill allowing men and women to get civil partnerships, something which they couldn't do for the longest time. Gay people got it before straight couples, in fact.
Well, it was invented so that people could get a tax break without being married.
Basically, the original case that went forward was by a gay rights activist. Whether or not Gareth Lee, the gay rights activist, is gay or not, I don't know. It's probably virtue signaling. Had sued the company for discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and political beliefs. But I don't think that played a part in a Christian. I don't think it was political beliefs with a religious couple, and I don't think. I mean, yes, okay, with religion, sexual orientation, perhaps there is some discrimination, but they still retain the right to refuse service. They could say that to anyone, and most people know this. Northern Ireland and Ireland, but mostly Northern Ireland because it's part of the United Kingdom, is quite religious. It's understandable that homosexuality is not exactly looked upon in a very good light. It's up there with abortion, basically, and if I remember correctly, abortion rights are virtually non-existent in Northern Ireland, or are they? I think they're changing. I think they actually had a vote. Was it Ireland? I really wish they'd just make themselves into one country again. I really do. Now, this case, right, went on for 4.5 years. Right, it cost £500,000, and the main sort of point was the question of equality and freedom of conscience, right, and to show how expensive this has gotten, the cake they wanted, right, this rainbow cake with that message on about blah blah equality, would have cost £36.50, so $47, right? Including the bakery's legal fees and the Equality Commission's legal fees, because, you know, the Equality Commission had the big guns. It cost $200,000 for the bakery and $250,000 for the Equality Commission to try and just for a cake. At the point, I mean, you have to marvel at some people's persistence. I mean, all down to wanting a cake. Are they now doing it because they want a cake, or are they doing it because they want the money to make someone feel shitty or to put them out of business? And the same for the bakery. Yeah, or to prove the point. And it's the same for the bakery. Are they only fighting because of their belief that God will deliver them? Which, if they still believe in God, then I think in their own mind, their God has done that, hasn't he? Because they won the appeal. Of course, I think another appeal could take place. You never know.
Well, that's the thing you have to kind of look at, especially in the UK. I find that even though religion is so, it's arguably not socially prevalent in the UK, but it is because of how you can see Islam and Christianity affect most of your social changes in either the UK islands or the actual mainland itself. It actually has quite still a lot to do with religion. And then to look at the United States and their version of the gay cake case. Wow, that was hard to say.
Yeah, I fucked it a few times.
That was more about social convention and was more putting down religion.
Where did the one in America take place? Was it in quite a religious state, or was it a quite progressive
Oregon,
state?
I think.
Oh, progressive state. Oh, right. Well, that explains that.
Yeah,
So there is a bit more to this. The Northern Ireland Attorney General has actually welcomed this actual decision, with the Equality Commission saying they will study the implications. And there's a quote here. There is a concern that this judgment may raise uncertainty about the application of equality law in the commercial sphere, both about what businesses can do and what customers may expect. Which then led to a bit of fallout, because obviously people are now saying this is one of the most expensive cakes in history. But I'd argue it's not necessarily an expensive cake, because nobody got the bloody cake. I bet.
Yeah, I was going to say, who the fuck got it in the end?
Can you imagine that? They've made this rainbow cake, and they're like, if they'd lost, they'd be like, alright, here's your gay cake then. There you go.
I wish. Hold it fucking hostage.
But then questions are being asked about this. They're being asked about the Equality Commission, whether they're right to spend more than $250,000 on this case. With DUP, so part of the Democrat Unionist Party for Northern Ireland. Basically, they've got 10 MPs in Parliament, and we'll talk about the DUP later with Brexit, because we're going to have a little talk about Brexit, a little one later. Ian Paisley, quite a well-known MP in fact, tweeting, "I have written to the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland calling for a review of funding for the Equality Commission. After such a decisive finding by the Supreme Court, the Equality Commission's immediate response has been to threaten to waste more public money on this case." Which is absolutely ridiculous, right? And just put it into context, right? That's basically taxpayer money being spent. Whereas the Ashers spent 200 grand with it being paid by the Christian Institute, which is a charity and lobby group. They're backed by, I guess, you could argue by extension, the church. So it's quite
kind of backwards if you think about it here, because you could look at that and say the same thing for like Planned Parenthood, for example,
yeah.
which is subsidized through taxpayer money, versus people who pay for private insurance, for example, which is usually done privately by the individual citizen. And it's kind of interesting to see where people actually prefer their money to go, and the irony that somebody with a charitable donation could put up a better, in this case because they won, legal defense than somebody who had forced money.
Yeah. Well, this opens up a few interesting little things about what happens now, because then more cases are going to come forward where this kind of discrimination may come up, and if people have managed to win money, then of course they could potentially have it reversed. I think it's interesting. I mean, there are some false equivalences, but people, and I've got some on the article here about quotes here for supporting veganism. That's not so controversial. It's just fucking stupid. The glory of Brexit and support fox hunting. Now those are quite controversial, but if you compare those with religious beliefs, I don't think they're this. I think it is a false equivalence. You can't put them on the same level, but they are quite, like Brexit especially is incredibly divisive. Fox hunting, not so much. The majority of people don't support it. The only people that do are posh twats. Not my kind of posh twat. I don't support it. I mean the kind of posh twat that thinks it's okay to take a mob of dogs chasing after a little hound or little rodent thing. I don't even know what a fox is. Is it a part of the canine family?
Cat dog.
It's a cat dog.
It is.
Fuck it.
It's Vulpine, actually, isn't it?
I don't know. I just don't see the point in killing it for a pleasure of a hunt. I just don't get it. Okay, I'm not. That's a type of woke that belongs in the 18th century. So yeah, I also think it's quite interesting this got so big that 5 Supreme Court justices had to travel to Belfast just to give this decision, and they voted unanimously in favour. What on earth did you... I mean, how on earth would the Equality Commission going to beat... And I'm going to say it, they're not going to win against the church in a very religious area. You're not going to win. And it all stemmed simply because... and the article even has it referenced. It was that the slogan that they went with... it was inconsistent with their religious beliefs. That was it. That's all that started this. Essentially, they've met. I'll be honest. I kind of want to go to their cake place now and have a gay cake made, loads of rainbows on it, and just have the word faggot written on it.
You probably would get that cake.
No context, just the word faggot. Make me a faggot fruitcake. Actually, fruitcake is another one of those little terms that could be used for people who are gay, can't it? You're a bit of a fruitcake. Or have you never heard that? Trups?
I'm sorry, no, I don't.
Oh, well, it's definitely one that's cropped up in my childhood. When you're the only person with an accent like this, fruitcake is apparently appropriate. Although I do really like fruitcake. I really do.
I've never eaten one.
I want a faggot fruitcake, everyone. Somebody get hold of them on Twitter for me. Yeah, it's the next step. Okay, yep. So do we want to move on to...
You want to talk about Kanye?
Let's talk about Kanye. Should we talk about Kanye?
Can I
preface before we do that? I want to preface this. I am not a fan of Kanye West. I'm not a fan of his music. I'm not a fan of anything about him, really. But I have to loll hard about some of the shit he says and the fallout from it. So now it's all yours now, Trups.
So, actually, this kind of goes back to your video that you had posted up recently about Taylor Swift, because people have made it another like battle between Taylor Swift and Kanye.
Before you do that,
okay.
I have to make one point with Taylor Swift. The senator, Marsha Blackburn, who she insulted, has come out against Taylor Swift, saying that Taylor was wrong. And Taylor is wrong, because Marsha Blackburn is a women's rights advocate. And everything Taylor Swift said was from the position of not pursuing equality. But by doing so, she actually went against somebody who is more feminist than she is. Continue.
Right. So, the sorry, I was drinking while you were talking. And I was like,
just,
go.
It's all good. It's all good.
So yeah, so Kanye has gotten quite a bit of notoriety in the United States because he has come out recently, within the past 6 months or so, as a firm Trump supporter, including but not limited to.
Why would you do that?
Because Kanye believes that just because you are black does not mean that you have to be a Democrat, that you are free to appreciate and follow whichever political opinion that you so resonate with.
Would you say that Kanye is a Republican then, or is he just a Trump follower?
I would say that he's anti-PC. I wouldn't say that he is either Republican or a Trump follower, but in this case, I think that Trump is just speaking the loudest to what he believes.
Would you not agree that CNN is quite right to call him the token Negro of the Trump administration? I feel bad saying that.
I would have thought he would have said that about Candace Owens.
Token?
Well, here's the question. What's the difference between Candace Owens and Kanye?
One of them is more politically, knowledgeable, I guess?
Well, I was going to say that one is a celebrity that has a bunch of followers, and the other is a woman.
You pull up. Oh, that's very true.
And if
the
you
white
want,
chromosome.
And if you want to, piss off one group of people, being Republican blacks, it's much easier if you do that than
someone did point out in the chat.
Women.
What about Omarosa?
Doesn't like Trump. She came out against him and actually broke laws. So fuck her.
Okay, continue. So tell me more about Kanye West.
Yeah. So recently on a CNN panel,
which I've got up on the screen now.
Kanye had made some comments during his most recent SNL appearance, and after the credits rolled in the live show, he actually went on a MAGA, like a MAGA rant.
Well, if you want, there's a video on the article you referenced. It's 1 minute 8 seconds long. I could play some of it, and he might be in this video clip.
Maybe
if you want, I will turn the volume up first.
Also, to answer, we are here. Yeah, she was part of his team, as was a whole bunch of other people at the start of his administration. I'm pretty sure we could go through all of his aides and all of his cabinet members and count more that left than stayed.
Okay. I've highlighted an article next to it where it says Herschel Walker calls for CNN to fire Don Lemon over racist Kanye West criticism.
I kind of agree.
Yeah, right. I'm going to play this video and see if it crops up. Turn that down. If there's any feedback, I do apologise. Failing that, I'll find it on YouTube. Do we not get any kind of video of this? This is gay! Oh, this is all gay music. Fuck it. What I'll do, I will quickly change tabs. While you keep talking, I will find a video of him saying it.
Well, it wasn't Don Lemon explicitly.
I know.
It was somebody else. Actually,
Toto Sotomayor or whatever his name is.
No, it was actually that former Congressman Bakari who called him a token Negro.
Oh, right, yes.
And Don Lemon and the other panelists laughed. And that's the whole debacle, is that you just called somebody basically a house nigger, and you're totally fine with it. Why? Because he's on the other side? That's so wrong. And the fact that you made a comment to Kanye about it Well, why? Is that because Snoop Dogg has already expressed that he is essentially a token nigger on Twitter? I don't know if you've seen Snoop Dogg, but he has been
No, I have
on
not.
Kanye's ass. He has been hounding Kanye's posts constantly, and it's been really, really bad.
I tried to find a video of the CNN panel insulting Kanye. I basically got something from 5 months ago where they say his Kanye's slavery comments are embarrassing.
Here, pull up Mark Dice's recent video. If you type in Mark Dice, CNN goes over the edge.
Okay, I will quickly find that. Oh yeah, CNN goes over the edge. Right. I just need to. You keep talking.
Okay, but
right.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I think I have it. I will pull it up now for everyone to see. It's not the best position.
Girls don't read. And we have this now, and now Donald Trump is going to use it and pervert it, and he's going to have somebody who can stand with him and take pictures.
Just looking at They're laughing. He just called Kanye West basically like, a dumb N-word.
So...
That's true. Okay, they've already insulted his intelligence. I've heard some of his music.
Don Lemon is laughing his absolute ass off about it.
Oh dear. Shall I keep going?
No, that's basically just the whole point of it.
Fair
and
enough.
I found it out basically because of Mark. I quite enjoy his content, even though he's a little bit more right-wing than I am.
I've seen some of his videos where he goes out into the public and just talks to them, asks them questions. I think he managed to catch some of them out as well, like with due process and free speech. He managed to catch them out, and I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, that was actually how I found him. Was Americans are so stupid, basically. Back in the day, my brother even did a couple videos for that for his his classes in college. He went around and filmed people and asked them like, what's the Bill of Rights? Go, and people didn't know. So you kind of see that nowadays, where people are like, due process, what's that?
Yeah,
but that's another story altogether. But basically, this whole debacle being like, Kanye is a bad guy, but Taylor Swift is a good person, or vice versa. If you're conservative, Taylor Swift should keep quiet, but Kanye is a good guy. This has been a lot of YouTubers that actually mention this kind of contradiction, and it is worth looking at, especially because both are technically protected classes.
Yeah, that's quite strange. What did you and I've got to draw on this one because it is quite funny. I love the obsession with him wearing the hat because it looks ridiculous on his head because it's not got a curve in it. It just doesn't look right. And he wore it today at the White House, and it looks again ridiculous. But he made a speech, and he goes on about how time is a myth and how wearing the MAGA hat made him feel like Superman. And it's not a joke. That is a quote from what he said when he was in there, to the point where he was basically, what's that? Is it the Resolute desk? What's the name of that desk in the Oval Office?
So I think it's just the president's desk, isn't it?
No, there's a word for it. I'll have to quickly find it. White House desk.
Resolute desk. Yeah,
I was right. Yeah, it's the Resolute desk.
I am awful. I need to brush up on my.
You know how I know that? Because I know
Nicolas Cage movies.
I vaguely recall the history of it. Because of The West Wing, great show. But there's even a 1-minute video of him talking, and I really want to play it. It's on Sky News, so I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
I will quickly link it to you. But apparently Trump was stunned into silence because of this, and I'm slightly like, this could be cringe, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, but it's Kanye, it could be great. So yeah, let's press play on this video and see if I can do it. Hopefully I won't get a copyright claim.
Just about, getting on stage and being an entertainer and having a monolithic voice that's forced to be a specific party. People expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. But you know what I don't like about, it's not that I don't like, what I need Saturday Night Live to improve on, and what I need the liberals to improve on is, if he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest planes, the best factories, and we have to make our core be in power. We have to bring jobs into America because our best export is entertainment and ideas. But when we make everything in China and not in America, then we're cheating on our country. And we're putting people in positions to have to do illegal things to end up in the cheapest factory ever, the prison system.
I'll tell you what, that was pretty impressive.
I'll pause that. So, did you hear that?
Yeah, that was actually. I mean, there were some parts where I think he was exaggerating a little bit, but
he
I
was
think
right
he
about the
has a good
factory
point.
work. You should put your country first, and but then, if I remember correctly, weren't the MAGA hats originally made in a factory elsewhere?
No, proudly made in America, but there are knockoffs that are made in China.
Ah, the knockoffs, right? Yeah, okay. There was some exaggerated points. I tend to agree, but you know.
Yeah, like I don't think the president should have the flyest planes, the best.
No,
clothes.
I don't. Generally, I think politicians, generally for me, and it might be the British person in me, but for years we have mocked our politicians mercilessly. Some of the best British shows have been us mocking our politicians. We've got Dead Ringers, where people did impersonations of very well-known politicians. In fact, the only time I never saw anyone mock a politician very well anyway, or very often, was Barack Obama. He was rarely mocked because, I don't know, actually, he was...
Oh, he's mocked quite a bit now. It's quite funny.
Yeah, now he is. But he wasn't when he was in office as much. And he was revered almost on TV shows. Our politicians, always mocked, always will be mocked. We had shows before then with puppets. I can remember. Split. I can't remember the name of the show. I'm gonna have to quickly go find it. This bugs me. This bugs me a lot. But it was really.
To respond to Teddy,
You do that.
he says, "I still don't think celebrities should be so vocal about their politics. I'm glad he's on the quote my side, but I still don't know why it's such a big deal." To put it plainly,
Yeah.
Teddy, I more or less agree. But celebrities are celebrities for a reason.
Yeah, and the show was called Splitting Image, which the chat has now just cropped up with as well. Although, Joe, Sweeting Image. You're right, Joe. Sweeting Image. That is the best name. It was Splitting Image, though, and it was a fantastic show with puppets, like exaggerated features, mocking politicians mercilessly. Dead Ringers, impersonations, mocking them mercilessly. The thick of it was basically was a parody of how politicians behave, with Peter Capaldi in it, just swearing all the fucking time. It was great.
Yeah.
But you didn't see that as much during the time of Obama. You saw it during Bush, easily. Clinton, yes.
For us, it was comedians personally had to handle it. There were no TV shows that
I generally take the stance, though, that politicians can be mocked. Yes, they do need to be held to in a certain regard, but you have to be able to laugh at them. But it's obviously, if everyone's laughing, then that's where the issue lies. If you're making a big deal, that's what someone says on social media. Consider this: you've only really had 2 presidents on Twitter, and one of them wasn't really him the whole time. It was actually probably his office. Whereas Trump, it's him.
Exactly.
That's never been, not realistically, been done before. So
But I do want to go back to Teddy's point real quick, just so I can wrap it up.
Go on.
Left it on
No, go for it.
But celebrities are essentially a reflection of public interest. The reason why celebrities make so much money is because they are a valuable asset. People sell out football stadiums in cities because they want to see their team, their athletes, their favorite. They buy their jerseys, they buy their merchandise. These are major draws to the city that they are being hosted in, as well as anywhere they go afterwards. They are a reflection of the public interest. So whereas I don't necessarily like it when they say things that are incorrect about politics, in a sense where they may not be necessarily as well in tune with, quote unquote, the working man as other people, I am okay with somebody using their influence to move towards a certain issue. For example, Kim Kardashian actually advocating for prison reform. I'm okay with that. Look at Akon, who brought 600 million people power in Africa. you don't hear about it. Why? Because he's actually doing something good and doesn't care about the notoriety behind it.
It's not about
There's a
optics for him,
difference.
it's about action.
Right. So even people who have taken on the mantle of a politician later in life, for example, Kane from the WWE,
Glenn Jacobs, the
is
mayor
on the
now in
ballot.
Tennessee. Yeah.
Oh, has he actually been elected?
He's a
Fantastic.
mayor now, yeah. I think.
So
I'm pretty
there you
sure he
go.
is.
I mean,
I'll go and check.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was
I mean that
elected.
makes sense. But Ronald Reagan, even up to Donald Trump, like they
Reagan was an
are
actor, wasn't he?
celebrities. Who? Reagan? Yeah. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger as governor of California.
He won the... Jacobs did, in fact, win the primary, and then he won the mayoral seat in Knox County on the 2nd of August.
Yeah.
So he is, in fact, the mayor of Knox County, assuming office on September the 1st.
Fucking man.
Oh, he's not... well, okay, that was an exaggeration on his height. But yeah, he is... He's,
come on.
He's billed as 7 foot tall. He's not.
Right.
It's like the Undertaker. Undertaker's 6. Undertaker's not 6'11". He's the same height as me.
Isn't he 6'7"?
Yeah, he's marginally tall. It might be his hair that made him taller.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah,
But
carry on.
but that's the important thing, and that's what I think about necessarily celebrities. They're not divorced from the people, and therefore should not have their voices squelched just because they live in a different kind of environment.
I do think,
especially if they will, take action for their cause.
Yeah, so I do think there are exaggerated points to that with those that are vocal to the point of an insult to intelligence. Recall the Electoral College video done by the celebrities and the subsequent first-time voting video. That was cringy, and quite frankly, get back to work, do what you're paid to do. Even if you're paid to do this, please don't do it again. But there's the counter side that if you're passionate about something, of course you should. It's something you love. Use what privilege you have to take advantage of it. You mentioned celebrities getting involved in politics. There are those who, yes, are very vocal, very passionate, but then there are others that are passionate but not very vocal. And Glenn Jacobs falls into that bracket. He's not a Republican, he's a libertarian. He won the Republican ticket because, well, I guess they wanted to win. And Tennessee is a Republican safe state, so let's face it, he was going to win. And
WWE and Republican states, fuck yeah.
And I say this because of all the stuff I did on the Taylor Swift video. I was talking to somebody who's from Tennessee, and I was also doing research, and I worked out, yeah, she's from Pennsylvania, fucking hell. But the when celebrities get involved, the problem usually arises when they're either too smug for their own good, or their position in politics is from a place of, yeah, but we haven't had this yet, so we need it, because that'll totally fix all the problems. They don't understand the bigger picture. They don't have scope. They instead have a very narrow-minded view and perception of people in politics, and a lack of understanding of how the system works, or how it could work for them if they played the game. It is a popularity contest, but you need to not appeal to only the big cities, because that's not how you win. You do in, like, Illinois, where essentially one city basically wins the entire state, whereas the rest of the state votes red. Which, by the way, would prove the Electoral College isn't entirely accurate. But that's Illinois for you.
They re-gerrymander every couple of years.
They really need to fix that. But yeah, as far as celebrities... Sorry, go on.
Look at Stephen Fry, for example, in the UK. He is politically active.
He's not as... I mean, he's a very intelligent man, but he doesn't speak... I don't hear him speak much on the subject of politics in this country. He is nowhere near as vocal, or vocal to the point of arrogance, as other well-known names, who are, but are clearly and are proven to be wrong. When they are proven wrong, they then just use because they can't argue against it or retract. They refuse to because they believe they have some image to protect. They then just use, "Oh, you're just haters," which I think is quite childish.
Perhaps he focuses more on philosophy than politics, though.
He is very interesting. He had a fantastic debate on the subject of free speech, I believe, and comedy's role in it, and he was on point. It was beautiful. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. I think Jordan Peterson was in it as well, and I just didn't give a shit about that part.
Yes, he was.
I didn't really. I'm not as stuck up.
The Monks debates.
Probably. I'm just not so far up his backside as others are. I don't really care. But Stephen Fry, I like. He's interesting. That might just be me though. As far as Kanye goes, with the way CNN have well, Fox, was it Fox or was it CNN that did it? It was CNN. Yeah. Where he was referred to as the token Negro of the Trump administration. What do you think should happen to those who called him a token? Oh, it was Seller that said that Kanye is what happens when Negroes don't read. That's that was the first one that was mentioned in the quote on the video that I played. With Set Mayer saying black folks are about to trade Kanye West in the racial draft. Okay, they've had it with him. That is the Uncle Tom token thing. I've heard it in I think it was Jimmy Kimmel's mean tweets. I think someone did say it was. I know there was one that said, "Dear God, give us Tupac and we'll give you Justin Bieber." But it's that same kind of, and I'm totally on board with that. It's that same idea. Just switch Kanye West with Justin Bieber. You know, put him on the other side because we just don't want to associate with him. And that joke's been used in a few shows before. I think South Park may have used it as well. In fact,
I believe so.
It sounds
they've played every game, so I mean,
yeah,
they're pretty on point when it comes to how to place comedic elements.
Yeah,
they're at least clever.
So here's the quote from Setmeyer that obviously the whole thing, and it was Tara Setmeyer who said this. This is not the Kanye West of 2004. So obviously the one with the apparently fantastic music. I don't know. Now all of a sudden, because he's put on a MAGA hat, his Superman hat, yes, and he's an attention whore. He always was an attention whore. Like the president, who cares? He's all of a sudden the model spokesperson. He's the token Negro of the Trump administration. Which, and interestingly, underneath there is a tweet, but they can't access it. I think it's been deleted, which is a shame because I would love to know what it was saying. Now, Setmeyer did also say that no one should be taking Kanye seriously. I tend to agree. I think he's a clown, but I love how, much like Trump, you are so stuck up. You're so annoyed that you've lost this pioneer, this man worth so much money and so successful in music. You've lost an influencer. But it's Kanye West. Does anyone really win? He raises some good points, but who's the winner there? The only people that I think win will be those that get to study his brain when he's dead.
Honestly, I would say that the fact that they're making him such a big deal makes him relevant. The fact that they can't fuck off, that every little thing that somebody does in support of the Trump administration is quite literally setting a fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah.
You know,
so
the fact that they keep making him a deal is why he has power.
So would you say what was said by Tara Setmeyer was racist?
Yes.
Okay. So there is a quote here I'm going to read from Fox News, from DeRoy Murdoch, saying the comments were reprehensible and racist and typical of the Trump-hating left that exists in mainstream media. Black Americans who think for ourselves are mocked and degraded with words we last saw under Jim Crow. I have no idea who Jim Crow is. Who is that? I've heard this.
Jim Crow is a series of laws that was introduced in the 60s to make black people separate but equal in the United States, but separate did not mean equal.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, the quote continues. If President Trump had no black supporters, this would call his circle Lily White. Now, one of America's most prominent black entertainers praises and visits the president, and he is trivialized as token who doesn't read. He's not Floyd Mayweather. Murdoch added that the only silver lining in this vile cloud is that the supposedly bigoted Trump presidency has delivered the lowest black unemployment in American history. Which some will quickly then point out that since presidents don't really get involved in shit, it wasn't really him, and then by extension then say when you debunk that bollocks because Barack Obama was praised for everything, they'll then just say, oh yeah, well it was Barack Obama that started it. Wait, so presidents get praise when it suits you? That's not how this works. But it is fantastic that black unemployment is down to record lows. That's fantastic. The more people working in Popeye's chicken, the better.
Jesus.
Hey, it does them 2 favors. Nutrition, work.
I mean, I can't say you're wrong.
I
And
don't.
also,
I don't,
I also like KFC. So.
Oh, I said I don't know if Popeyes is any good. I just said it because it's the first one that came to my
Popeyes
head.
is also pretty good.
I don't know. I don't eat fried chicken much.
Yeah,
Actually, I haven't had it
I'm
in
a
years.
Jesus chicken lover myself. Chick-fil-A all the way.
Spoke to one of my patrons actually because I said I'm sorting out my passport at the moment because my intention is to come to the States next year for a couple of weeks, and she asked me which fast food joints I'd want to go to, and I was like, okay, I want to try Arby's. Don't know what that is, but let's try it. Let's try Wendy's, White Castle, Popeyes, Taco Bell. Let's try these, and possibly some antacids.
I was gonna say, you just want to come to the South, dude? We'll treat you right.
yuck, we'll treat you right.
Yeah, shoot off some guns and shit.
I just want to, before we get back on topic, I was looking at funny videos of rednecks, and 2 of them cropped up. One was a tire burnout, redneck style, outside a church. Burned out the tires, and then got the rim so hot they melted off, but left 2 ginormous gouges in the tarmac. The second was fireworks.
Impressive.
Was fireworks with rednecks, where they got the entire metal framing of a mattress and attached fireworks to it. Oh, it was glorious. It was.
Yep, that sounds like a weekend where I'm at. Well, actually, no, that's a little too redneck for where I am.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's like some Alabama, Louisiana shit.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty Alabama. Now, Trump has come out on this racist crap that came from CNN. CNN really have fallen, haven't they? I mean, he called them fake news. They essentially proceeded to double down and double down, double down, double down, to the point where they're now digging a hole so deep they can't even see the horizon of the moral high ground. They don't know where it is. They don't have a leg to stand on, and they don't have any way of getting out of it. I mean, they essentially attack someone who is successful because he doesn't align with them. But this has been known for a long time, to the point where the one thing that really was quite funny about that whole interaction where they were calling him all these names was that they had one white guy and he couldn't say shit. He was just like...
Did you notice how awkward he looked, by the way?
Stunned into silence. Because he can't use the word Negro. He can't use the word token. If he does, oh my god, he's fired. Or probably promoted in this case.
Not fired, definitely. Well, I mean, it depends. It is CNN. It is raised by the Democratic Party, who said, and Hillary Clinton... Oh, no. LBJ? I'll have those niggers voting for Democrat for the next 200 years?
Now,
LBJ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since it came out, Candace Owens has also come out and spoken about it. That says it's not only racist but despicable. Media Research TV Center managing editor said it's blatant racism. Journalist Glenn Greenwald took exception to a comment when Setmeyer said West had issues and had already been hospitalized, by saying exploiting and mocking the fact that someone had previously sought medical treatment for mental health issues in order to disqualify them from participating in public debates and being taken seriously is reprehensible, and CNN should be ashamed of itself for airing that. What makes CNN's weaponizing of mental health treatment against Kanye West extra repulsive, a mere 4 months ago, the suicide of their own colleague, Anthony Bourdain, followed by Kate Spades, sparked a national discussion about the dangers of this stigma. Quite right to point out here, with mental health awareness being, well, actually it was Mental Health Awareness Day, I believe, on the 10th, and it's very important to then take such a light view towards mental health and use it as a weapon against someone. It does show how far some are willing to go. They're willing to denigrate somebody based on race because, of course, being of the same colour, you're allowed to wash your hands of them, and simultaneously attack every fabric of their character down to their own mental health, which to me is a damning statement about how far CNN has fallen. I would not want to trust them ever on the grounds of what they say in this. This is enough of a warning, as if anything wasn't before. Let's face it, some of the stuff they come up with is in fact fake news. It has been proven to be fake news. It's a joke now. I'm done with it. Let's move on.
Yep.
Okay. So what do you want to move on to next? Actually, let's talk about slavery.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, sure.
we'll give this 5 minutes. Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the opposition, has this plan for education. Now, we have quite a broad curriculum where schools get to set the curriculum to an extent. They have a certain freedom in this. It was introduced during the time of, I believe, Tony Blair, and I think it was increased more when the creation of academies actually started under Tony Blair. It was expanded on immensely by Cameron, which has yielded quite good results. Again, and I'll say this many times, whether you like academies or not, the results are there. Now, academies can set what is taught on the syllabus to an extent. They then have to pass tests that are then set by companies like EdXL and I can't remember the other ones. Other bullshit
PowerPoint,
places.
Word, and all that shit.
Probably, yeah. EdXL is one of those like governing bodies for academia in certain fields. But Corbyn has a plan for history, where he wants to introduce, for school children, Britain's role in slavery and colonialism, which has then led to people accusing Labour of putting ideology first and children second. Now, we Brits have an incredible history. Our history goes back millennia, and it is such a fantastic history. My favourite periods are medieval mostly. In fact, that's one of the subjects I majored in. I am very knowledgeable in this area. Probably not so much these days. I'm quite old. Other areas would be Tudors, but most people know everything about the Tudors. I think we did cover in our syllabus wars. We did cover Russia, because communist Russia is fascinating. And we did cover black history. But no one gives a shit. Nobody cares. I'll be honest. It's black history in the United Kingdom isn't, past Windrush, it's not as well known or spoken of, because it's just not, it's not something there. So I get the idea, actually, of wanting to talk about it when it comes to the Empire, because of what we did to obtain from people. And so it's quite, actually, there is some validity to it when it comes to talking about the Empire, because that's not something spoken of quite common in history classes. But the way it's being put forward by Labour is being put forward as if what we need to do is make all the white students feel guilty about their ancestors and what they did. Now, when it comes to black history, a regular argument that's put forward is that Africa didn't have much as far as a rich history before transatlantic slavery. But actually, it's not entirely true. Africans weren't entirely inferior. Some could argue that they were potentially as civilized, organized, and technologically advanced as people from mainland Europe. Now, where it differs is
there were like sultans. There were a bunch of kingdoms.
Oh yeah, Ghana had a massive kingdom and an army of over 200,000 men.
And slaves.
Gold, copper, yeah. They sold. It was gold, copper, wood, ivory, bronze. They really did, and people. The gold especially. So yeah, Africa does have a fantastic history, by the way. I'm not going to deny that, but something they retained, and we benefited from, and people seem to forget this. And Corbyn, in fact, has almost ignored this. Is that black people were still selling black people?
All the time.
It's all good saying that we came, the white, say we, I'm not white. The white folk came in and they did all the bad things is a bit disingenuous. And I think it's interesting. Because, okay, so for example, and this reminds me of Roman slavery, where, and it's referenced on this little thing I've got here, forms of slavery existed in Africa before Europeans arrived. Some countries in the African continent had their own systems of slavery. So, how African slavery was different from what was come to later. For example, most enslaved people were captured in battle. In some kingdoms, temporary slavery was a punishment for some crimes. In some cases, enslaved people could work to buy their freedom, which reminds me of Romans. and children that were born into slavery were not slaves automatically. I think that's quite interesting. So I don't mind the idea of teaching about imperialism, the empire, but only from the. I wouldn't mind it if it was perhaps if we were going to expand more on African history. It makes sense. The argument would be made: is it really relevant in the short or long term? Because most people aren't interested in that. And I
mean, people really need to. You're never going to get it, unfortunately. People are never going to just look at slavery and be like, "Yep, black people did that too." It's just never going to happen.
Well, I saw someone on Twitter say white people had never suffered as much as black people. I think I quote retweeted. I just called him a retard because obviously he's never heard of Barbary slave trade. And Corbyn said that this was in light of the Windrush scandal. The Windrush scandal is a very small scandal. I'm not joking. I don't want to be rude to those that came here from the Caribbean. I really don't want to be. But you are a very small number and should not be what can be considered to be the straw that broke the camel's back in education reform, when our education system doesn't necessarily need reform. It just needs to be consistent. Which I guess could only be really achieved by reform. It's a bit of an insult. Now, Corbyn has also said he doesn't want to focus on positive aspects of British history. Thing is, medieval history for Britain, not that positive. Tudor history, anyone ever heard of the plague? Hardly the highlight of our time.
Didn't like half of Europe die? Like 3/4 of Europe?
Seriously, so much of our history is bleak and bloody. The wars, fuck me, the wars. The blood. There's nothing positive about that. We're not taught the positive aspect of history. You're deluded if you think so. Do you think when I was 15 learning about Soviet Russia, it was so positive to find out that Stalin had ordered someone to kill Trotsky with an ice pick? No.
In Mexico.
What do you think was so glorious when somebody went and killed Rasputin? Because, well, they tried to many times actually. But they tried so many different methods that Churasas wrote an entire song about it. One of the glorious songs of Churasas, by the way. It's like fantastic. It's quite interesting. The motivation, it comes from a place I get of genuine concern, but we already teach quite depressing history anyway. What you want is to add white guilt. That's what you want. That is exactly what Jeremy Corbyn wants. I don't know why, because students do not benefit from being torn down because of what other people have done. Regardless of racial connection, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Not only that, but even biblical teachings will tell you, as one of the passages mentions, the son carrying the sins of the father, but it was made as kind of a comment that we're not going to do that because it's wrong, is the end all moral of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on a grand scale, that's what essentially this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your ancestors may have been shit, but how long are you going to hold that grudge from somebody who's been dead possibly 4 to 10 generations back?
Exactly. I'm all on board. I'm all in agreement there. So should we move on to one last topic before we finish?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Should we move on to one of the things you linked actually? We can finish up on that if you want. Or I could talk about the DUP and Brexit.
Let's hit up with Brexit.
Okay.
I took a lot of time on Kanye.
No. It's quite all right. Last couple of weeks you've been carrying this anyway.
That's all right. Take your moment.
Hey, I had dental work today. I had an excuse. I could have used it, but I
went to work.
I had the day off. I didn't have an excuse. Anyway, so Brexit's reaching its final stages with the negotiations, with most of it being agreed on so far. The one stumbling block is basically around trade. How we will trade, how Ireland and Northern Ireland fit into this. And the Prime Minister is trying to get her war cabinet, her Brexit war cabinet, to agree to keep Britain in a customs union, right, after the DUP rebelled against Tories in a vote and threatened to bring the government down. Now, they can do that. The government at the moment, at present, is a minority government, propped up by the 10 DUP MPs who refused to vote on a Labour amendment to an agriculture bill. Now, it was an ordinary bill, to be honest. I've read it. It's just meh. But they did it because Northern Ireland would remain in the single market to stop a hard Irish border, which would go against the wishes of the DUP. It would also mean that we are still, while negotiating our exit after we even leave, still tied to the EU past the transition period. Right? The whole idea would mean that we become a part of the EU still in every sense, realistically. She's trying to push forward with checkers still.
But what's the...
Go on.
It's just not worth it. I mean, it's like they're trying every in and out just to...
Yeah. Oh,
and anything to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so what they're going to do is the DUP have already this warning shot with the agriculture bill. They've even said they're going to vote against the budget on the 20th of October, and the reason is because they will. And this is a quote from the spokesman for Brexit, for DUP, said that we will not be bullied into propping up a soft touch government which gives in to the EU's demands, which is quite right. The EU is basically is being bent over, and there's a quote here for what does Theresa May's backstop deal mean? The Prime Minister's backstop proposal would see the whole of the UK remain in the customs union and Northern Ireland remain in the single market. Do you remember the many Prime Minister's questions, everyone, where Theresa May even said, "We are leaving the single market, we are leaving the customs union"? Her Chequers deal would not mean that. The current customs union guarantees tariff-free trade with no border checks. So fucking what? We voted to leave. Who the fuck are you to tell us we stay in it because it's in Britain's best interest? You've basically just said there, with your middle finger pointed up at these 17.4 million people that voted to leave, fuck you, I know what's best for you. No, you don't. Because they voted for what they wanted. And you give the people what they want. If you want to continue in office, that is. Now, continuing on with this, it says, keeping the UK in the customs union would avoid a hard Irish border. If you hadn't made such a big deal of the fucking border to begin with, that would not have been a problem. But it imposes a common external tariff which stops individual members striking their own free trade deals outside the bloc. Yeah, about that. Yeah. Membership of the single market, which would only apply in Northern Ireland, allows for free trade within the EU and European Economic Area. It requires members to sign up to the 4 freedoms, including the free movement of people, which yet again flies in the face of what the Prime Minister promised. She promised to bring it down. How do you do that if the population is being flooded in another part of the United Kingdom? The United Kingdom is 4 countries, not 3.5. You don't sell off one country to get the best deal, which isn't even a deal. It still means we're a part of the EU to begin with. You are betraying the people by pushing through with Chequers. At this point, take no deal and tell the EU to shove it. I would rather that than this pathetic idea you've put forward. How shit a negotiator are you? This is why women are paid less, by the way. This is why they're paid less. Because when they're in charge of negotiating like this is the shit they come up with. I do apologise to the rest of the girls that actually know how to negotiate. But you know that whole gender pay gap bollocks? Yeah, this is basically reinforcing the belief that MRAs, the MGTOWs are right. Fuck. I got a bit misogynist there. It's so infuriating. She is such a shit nigga. She also micromanages this now. Is it micromanage when she takes over essentially? Yeah. She's fucked it. Absolutely fucked it. She reinforces a stereotype, okay? It's quite triggering. Now, including this, right, we would remain a part of a combined customs territory. Essentially, we'd stay in the customs union because that's the EU's idea. It's their thing, and they won't change for us. I'm just going to do this now. Congratulations, Theresa May. You will be voted out of office in 2022. Possibly sooner. You massive bellend. As if you didn't have enough issues to deal with, because you've already got at least 30 MPs in your own benches, and the 10 DUP members, and a fair number of Labour who will just vote against you for the shits and giggles, voting against you. So when you bring forward your little ideas, it's highly likely you're going to lose the vote, and then more than likely a vote of no confidence. If someone wants
I've been waiting for that for a while now, that vote of no confidence. I've been waiting for that shit to happen.
It was going to happen sooner, but yeah, it would have happened sooner, but Theresa May called for an early summer recess, so it didn't happen. But if anyone wants Jacob Rees-Mogg, press 1 in the chat. I'm sure you'll get your wish. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about, or should we finish up with what we were going to do today?
I'm all set.
Do you want to shill anything before we finish?
I have a Streamlabs finally.
Give him all your shekels.
Yes, if you'd like to donate, it's down in the description. Omegon has one as well.
Like I give a shit.
I don't know if you noticed that little thing above my head in the picture. That's what he wants.
Right.
I don't have one of those yet. I don't actually stream all that often, but I'm working on maybe getting some of Quacks, Omegon, and now Disconar in some GTA streams.
Oh, it'd be so much fun.
In the near future.
Especially with some heist, oh god, the biker gang stuff, because that was alright. I mean, minus the fact that you and Quacks both died.
Yeah, well,
so much money you cost us. It's fine, doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you all very much for joining us. Say goodbye, Trups.
Goodbye, Trups.
I didn't hear you say it again.
Goodbye, Trups.
Fantastic.